It is a great honor and a privilege to introduce Wolf Moskovich, Professor Moskovich. We're here in Yerushalayim, and you are a world authority on the Shoah, on Ukraine. So if you could just mention a little bit about, just a bit of a history, where you were born, and a little bit about your history, a little bit.
Okay. I grew up in city that's called Czernowitz. It is a city between borders. The borders were always shifting. During my lifetime, there were about three countries there at least. I was born, it was Romania. Then it was after 1940, it was the Soviet Union, and now it is Ukraine. This is a particular city because in many ways it was one of the very rare occasions where you can live in the Soviet Union and be surrounded all the time by Jews. Most of the population of the city were Jews, at least about 60% of the population, and you could live and converse in Yiddish. You were going in the street and everybody could know this language, and your family language was also Yiddish for sure, and there was quite a developed religious life in this city, although in the whole Soviet Union that wasn't so. I had my bar mitzvah already in Soviet times. I could lay tefillin. I have done it until the age at least 18, although in the Soviet Union that was not so much acceptable. And you could live a Jewish life, but you have to be silent. You have to do it in secret, and not telling anybody about what was going on in your family and your surroundings, family surroundings, all that. So I lived there for quite a number of years in Czernowitz, and when the time came for me to enter the university, sure, I couldn't do it there because of the local anti-Semitism, because not many Jews were accepted to the local university in Czernowitz. Czernowitz is a city with quite a rich cultural history. In 1908, in this city, they called an international conference in which it was, for the first time in history, it was, at least in modern history, it was declared that Yiddish and Hebrew are national languages of the Jewish people. It was a part of Jewish revival in Central and Eastern Europe. So I couldn't continue my education in this city. I have to go somewhere else. And I went to Moscow, where actually I made all my scholarly career until my Aliyah to Eretz Yisrael, which I've done in 1971. It was the early Aliyah to Eretz Yisrael. Our family was quite a traditional family. We lived the usual life of a traditional Jewish family with keeping as much as possible mitzvahs, eating only kosher meat. It was available, although it was by Soviet laws illegal, but it was available if you wanted to get it in this city. And there were synagogues working. At the same time, the secular life, Jewish, was also, until it was cut down by Stalin, it was still functioning. So there was a Yiddish theater there, which was functioning until 1948. There was a Yiddish school functioning there until 1950. But after that, already Jewish life there was very much official Jewish life was very much prohibited. And when even a group of local Jews wanted to erect a monument at the Jewish cemetery to the victims of the Second World War, and have written there their text memorial text on this monument, then immediately the local Communist Party authorities got immediately active. They moved in and they prohibited this inscription, replacing it by a new inscription that this is a monument to Soviet citizens, peaceful Soviet citizens that were murdered by Nazis. So that was our life there. Czernowitz was also very interesting from the point of view that from Czernowitz, Jews could always, even in the worst years of the Stalin regime, emigrate, make aliyah to Eretz Yisrael. But mainly it was done by semi-legal ways. So somebody paid a bribe, and for this bribe he got permission to get out of the Soviet Union. So in 1988, if you look at the numbers of Jews who emigrated from Czernowitz, from the Soviet Union to Eretz Yisrael, you see that most of those who emigrated were from one city, Czernowitz, and the rest were from whatever it is, all the other places in the vast country of the Soviet Union. It's explained by many facts, and one of the facts was that first of all, there was a more liberal attitude towards aliyah and immigration on the part of Soviet authorities in Czernowitz than in other places, and also by the Zionist spirit of the Jews in this city. I was very happy that I'm very happy that I actually grew up in such Jewish surroundings, although not in a very hospitable place for Jews as the Soviet Union. Czernowitz, it was quite a very rare place in Eastern Europe. Czernowitz is also interesting from another point of view, because that was the only place in Eastern Europe where 20,000 Jews lived through the war. They were left there as, so to say, useful professional people, and it was under Romanian occupation, and the rest of the Jews there of 20,000, because the general population was about 60,000 Jews in this city, the rest were actually deported to the concentration camps of Transnistria. So my young years were among people who actually survived the war, Jewish survivors of concentration camps of Transnistria, and that was marked actually all my life after that. And also my interest in research is very much connected with these events, tragic events of 1939, 1945 that happened in Central and Eastern Europe, actually in the whole Europe as such. Thank you, Dr. Glassman, for your kindness.
I really appreciate it. Wolf, what year were you born in?
I was born in Romania, not far away from Czernowitz.
But what year?
In 1936, 1936, so by now I'm 86 years old.
Yeah. Ken and her. And your family, did the majority of the family survive the Shoah?
No, the majority of my family, I am one of the few people of my family that actually remained alive. Okay, although that was very tragic history. And a part of my family, I even don't know where they are buried because they were not buried. They actually, there was a transport. We were all, whatever it is, had to march on foot for hundreds and hundreds of kilometers. And as people could continue and they fell by the road, they were shot. And in this way, members of my family were actually murdered. So we don't know actually even exactly. They don't have their whatever it is. We don't know where their remains lie. Simply don't know. It was on the road for thousands of kilometers. And then there was a river, and Dniester, and those people who were in the column, they were taken over the river on barges, and on the way, the Romanian, whatever it is, soldiers and all that were shooting at them and throwing them into the river. So not all of the people who actually were in this column across the river. And then the people in the column were led by the soldiers, by Romanian occupiers, into the terrain of Podolia, and they were not given any kind of. I don't want to continue on that because after that I'll getting very, very excited and very whatever. I couldn't do it. I can't.
Max, thank you so much. Okay, I really appreciate it, Max.
But it was very tragic times. It was very tragic times, and during the first winter of 1941, most of the people who were actually driven there into these camps in Transnistria, most of them died of typhus, typhoid fever, and famine, and already there were very few survivors actually. It's always whatever it is. I can't continue about it. Thank you very much.
Can I just ask, Max, what message do you give, or can you impart? Having gone through what you went through, and
message I can give
to the next generations, to the future generations.
I don't have for the whole humanity. I don't have a message, but for the Jewish people, I have a message. You should never forget that there is a big world, and this big world is not always friendly to Jews, and you should always remember that there is always some lurking somewhere, some danger, and you should be aware of it, and you should take care of yourselves. And it concerns Jews everywhere, Jews in Israel, Jews all over the world. You should never, because I am very much afraid that the young people simply don't know the past, because you have to know the historical chain. If you remember the historical chain, it means from where we came, why we are Jews, why remaining Jews, what brings us together, what is the sense of our existence as Jews. Then you have some feeling, whatever it is, of what you have to do, how you have to behave and all that. But the young people, I'm afraid of today, they don't have, I'm speaking about the secular part of the population. They don't have this idea. They don't know from where they came and where they are going. And that's very much disturbing me. And I'm speaking about the secular part for sure of the Jewish population. It concerns, if you come to Israel and you're secular, you're not safe. you're still not safe, because the assimilation here is very, very much, so to say, I would say, rampant, and Israelis easily intermarry. You don't have to live in America to intermarry. You can be an Israeli and you can intermarry. They are bringing in their non-Jewish wives here, which don't convert, and that's, is it our next generations? And we have to think about it. So I think that Jewish education is extremely, extremely important. The quality of Jewish education. And I think that Jewish education shouldn't be sort of neglected, because we have to think about future. If we have as a people the future, we have to cling to our values and to our traditions.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
And I just wanted the last question. Are you happy that you made Aliyah, that you came to Israel?
I am happy that I made Aliyah. That was the idea of my life, actually, because in 1930s, part of our family already made Aliyah before us, and we were in permanent contact with our relatives. I mean, about my nuclear family, with our relatives in Israel. We corresponded with them all this time, all these years. We received parcels from them with matzahs, and so we had matzahs every year, and all that. And so the idea that our place is not in such an unfriendly place for Jews as Soviet Union was always there, and we always knew that we have to, whatever it is, that we have to make Aliyah, to come to Israel. And so at the first occasion I've done it, and it was in 1971, and what I am only sorry that I couldn't come earlier. Yeah, if I could come earlier, you know. Although maybe I wouldn't have got such an education as I got in Moscow, because I got an excellent education there, and I had all the opportunities for my development, my career. And at the peak of my career already there, I left. And people couldn't understand how a person can destroy everything they've built for many years and just go somewhere, you know.
But you landed, you were in Oxford as well?
I came on education, on invitation to Jerusalem, because my pupils already were here at the university teaching here. So I got an invitation from one university in Moscow to another university in Jerusalem. So I didn't have any problems, because I had a job before I came even here.
But in England, you
Okay, one moment. My permanent place all these years were in the Hebrew University. In addition to that, when I had my sabbaticals, I went to to England mainly, and to the States, and I taught at several universities. Among them were Oxford University summer course of Yiddish, which I was teaching the Yiddish linguistics and all that. London University of London. Then there was Cornell University, University of Pennsylvania, and Toronto University. I taught everywhere there, and I taught also in Italian universities. Okay, that's it.
Well, I just want to thank you so much. Then if I can do this. But really, it's been the greatest honor and privilege, and thank you so very much.
Thank you very much.
You should just have mazel bracha and good health.
Thank you.
And may Vesrim, and from the bottom of my heart, I'm so grateful to you.
Thank you, Dr. Glassman.
And it's been the greatest honor and privilege.
It's a great privilege to know you. Thank you. Is your telephone so wonderful?